Most people think a $50,000 new car is the safe choice. The truth is, some of the most comfortable, quiet, and surprisingly interesting cars on the used market are sitting under a badge almost nobody brags about anymore: Buick. These are not perfect cars. They will not beat a new car on warranty, tech, or resale. But for comfort, value, power, and quiet luxury, these forgotten Buicks make a lot of new vehicles look overpriced. Let's get into it. Number 8. Buick Verano Turbo. The Verano Turbo is the kind of car people underestimate before they even turn the key. It looks like a basic compact Buick. Small sedan, quiet styling, no attitude. And that is exactly why it gets missed. Most buyers assume it is just a softer economy car with nicer seats. But the turbo version is different. The regular Verano used a 2.4-liter four-cylinder with 180 horsepower. The Turbo got a 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder with 250 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, paired with a 6-speed automatic, and some examples even had a 6-speed manual. That is not retirement car power. That is sleeper power. Used prices are the whole story. A 2016 Verano can often be found in the roughly $7,000 to $13,000 range, and even premium turbo examples can show up under $10,000 depending on mileage and condition. The risk is neglect. Check turbo behavior, oil leaks, coolant leaks, transmission shifts, and service records. The Verano is not usually an expensive car to maintain, but a neglected turbo engine can erase the bargain fast. This is not the Buick you buy for status. It is the Buick you buy when you want to quietly know something other people missed. Number 7. Buick Cascada. Here is the Buick most people forgot existed. A modern Buick convertible. The Cascada was never the fastest convertible, never the sharpest convertible, and never the one people dreamed about when they were shopping BMW or Mercedes. That is why it became invisible. But that invisibility is the opportunity. It used a 1.6-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, front-wheel drive, and a 6-speed automatic. It was not built to be a sports car. It was built to be a comfortable 4-seat convertible that did not come with luxury brand repair anxiety. Used Cascadas commonly sit around ordinary used sedan money. Many examples land around the mid-teens. While higher mileage cars can dip much lower and cleaner, late examples can climb into the low 20s. But this is the least rational car here. You need to inspect the power top carefully. Open it, close it, check the seals, check the trunk, check the carpets, and look for any water smell. Convertible-specific body parts can be expensive, and electrical problems can turn a fun car into a frustrating one. A clean Cascada is charming. A neglected one is trouble with a soft top. That is the whole deal. Number 6. Buick Regal GS Sedan. The Regal GS is what happens when Buick quietly builds a sport sedan and then sells it under the one badge sport sedan buyers were not checking. That is why it depreciated. People shopping sporty sedans wanted BMW, Audi, Lexus, Acura, Infiniti, or Cadillac. Buick was not even in the conversation. But mechanically, the Regal GS had a real case. The 2014 to 2017 GS used a 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, making 259 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive was available, and the car had a more aggressive setup than the regular Regal. The regular Regal was a comfortable, near-luxury sedan. The GS added sharper looks, sportier seats, stronger hardware, and more personality. It was not a German performance sedan, but it also did not come with old German sedan ownership fear. Used pricing is still friendly. Many examples sit in the low to mid-teens, depending on mileage, condition, and whether you are looking at a regular Regal or a true GS. Check the turbo, cooling system, transmission behavior, all-wheel drive operation, suspension wear, and maintenance records. This is not a car for someone who needs a badge to explain their purchase. It is for someone who wants comfort, power, and a little European flavor without paying European repair prices. Number 5. Buick Envision Avenir. This one matters because it speaks directly to the modern buyer. A lot of people today want a comfortable, compact SUV with a nice interior, good tech, a quiet ride, and a premium feeling. Then they walk into a showroom and suddenly the price is pushing 45 or 50 grand. The Envision Avenir is the used market shortcut. Every 2021 to 2023 Envision used a 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder with a 9-speed automatic, and all-wheel drive was available. The Avenir trim added the nicer interior treatment, more equipment, and the version that actually feels like Buick was trying to be premium. The depreciation is the key. Used examples can often sit in the high teens to mid-20s, while Avenir models usually land higher depending on miles and condition. Compared with a new premium-feeling SUV near $50,000, that gap is huge. That is why this car belongs here. No, it is not as prestigious as a Lexus. No, it is not as exciting as a German SUV. But inside, it can feel calmer and more upscale than many brand new mainstream SUVs. The warning is tech. Check infotainment, cameras, sensors, driver assistance systems, all-wheel drive service, and recall history. Real quick, if this kind of used car loophole is helpful, hit the like button so more people stop overpaying for boring cars. Number 4, Buick Enclave Avenir. This is where families should pay attention. 3-row SUVs have gotten expensive fast. Once you want space, comfort, leather, quietness, and actual room for people, the new car market starts acting like $50,000 is the entry fee. A used Enclave Avenir makes that look questionable. The 2018 redesign brought a 3.6-liter V6, a 9-speed automatic, 7-passenger seating, and available all-wheel drive. The V6 made around 310 horsepower, and the Enclave was tuned more for smoothness than excitement. This is not a sporty SUV. It is a living room with wheels. Used pricing is the reason it works. Earlier examples can sit in the teens, while newer Avenir models can land in the upper 20s or low 30s, depending on condition and mileage. The Enclave gives families space, quietness, and comfort without forcing them into a brand new payment. But you cannot ignore the risks. Check transmission behavior, electronics, liftgate operation, water leaks, suspension noise, sunroof drains, and recall completion. The Enclave is bigger, heavier, and more complex than the smaller Buicks on this list, so inspection matters. Best move? Look for 2020 or 2021 Avenir models with clean history and complete service records. A good one feels expensive, a neglected one becomes expensive. Number 3, Buick LaCrosse Premium or Avenir. This is probably the purest Buick on the list. Not the weird one, not the sporty one, not the crossover one, the quiet one. The final generation LaCrosse arrived right when buyers stopped caring about large sedans. That hurt Buick, but it helped used car shoppers. Because the LaCrosse gives you space, quietness, maturity, and a near-luxury feel without the premium badge tax. The desirable version used a 3.6-liter V6 with 310 horsepower. The 2017 model used an 8-speed automatic, while later Avenir versions used a 9-speed automatic. All-wheel drive was available on certain higher trims. This car was not built to impress teenagers in parking lots. It was built to make the highway disappear. Used prices are still reasonable. Many examples sit in the mid-teens to low 20s, with Avenir models usually landing higher depending on miles and condition. Reliability is part of the appeal, but it still needs a proper inspection. Check the transmission, electronics, suspension, all-wheel drive system, and any signs of water intrusion. This is the car for someone who wants Lexus-like calm but does not need the Lexus badge. Number 2, Buick Regal Sportback GS. This Buick should not be as interesting as it is. A 310 horsepower V6, all-wheel drive, a 9-speed automatic, a practical liftback body, Brembo brakes, more cargo flexibility than a normal sedan, and somehow, most people still walked right past it. That is the badge effect. If this had been sold under a different name, people would talk about it differently. They would call it a quirky sports sedan, a practical performance hatch, maybe even a future cult car. But because it said Buick Regal, it got ignored. The GS is very different from the regular Regal Sportback. The standard car used a turbo 4-cylinder. The GS got the 3.6-liter V6, standard all-wheel drive, stronger brakes, sportier seats, and a more serious personality. Used prices vary because these are not everywhere. Regular Regals can be found for reasonable money, but clean GS models often command more because of rarity. The risks are not imaginary. Because this Regal has Opel roots and was discontinued, some trim and body parts may not be as easy as a Camry fender. Check accident history, all-wheel drive service, brakes, tires, suspension, and all electronics. This is the Buick nobody expected, and that is exactly why it is cool. Number 1, Buick Regal TourX. The Regal TourX is the final boss of modern forgotten Buicks. It is rare, it is a wagon, it has standard all-wheel drive. It looks more European than American. And because the US market was obsessed with SUVs, almost nobody bought it. That is what makes it special now. The TourX used a 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 250 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, paired with an 8-speed automatic sending power to all 4 wheels. This is the car for someone who wants crossover usefulness without crossover boredom. Used prices are still approachable. Many examples sit from the low teens to the mid-20s depending on trim, miles, and condition. And with over 70 cubic feet of maximum cargo space, it has real, everyday usefulness. The best trim is Essence because it better matches the premium mission. The base cars are still useful, but the nicer trim makes the whole idea click. Risks, rarity, body parts, Opel-related sourcing, accident history, turbo maintenance, all-wheel drive service, suspension wear, electrical issues, but when you find the right one, the TourX feels like the Buick only smart used car shoppers know about. Not because it is perfect, because it is different, useful, comfortable, and still undervalued. The point is not that every used Buick is better than every $50,000 new car. That is not true. A new car gives you warranty, newer safety systems, better infotainment, and fewer unknowns. Toyota, Lexus, Honda, and Acura still make sense for a lot of people, but the market overpays for obvious answers. And Buick is not obvious. That is why these cars are interesting. They are not for people who buy a badge, they are for people who buy comfort, value, and intelligence.